So, good morning, everybody. My name is Gene Coltes. I'm the presiding member for today's Metropolitan Outer Development Assessment Panel meeting. I have with me the panel members Dale Page and Mike Moritz. On part B of the agenda from the City of Swan, we have Councillor Jennifer Catalano, not with us yet, and Councillor Rod Henderson. And for part C, I'll have Mayor Rhys Williams and Councillor Karen Knight from the City of Mandurah. I declare the meeting open at 9:35 a.m. and in doing so I acknowledge we are hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and we acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of Western Australia. Pay respect to elders past and present and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters and community. The meeting will be run in accordance with DAP Standing Orders 2024 under the Planning and Development Assessment Regulations of 2011. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the DAB website in accordance with Regulation 42A of the Planning and Development Regulations 2011. Members are reminded to announce their name prior to speaking. Panel members during the meeting may be referring to technical devices throughout to assist them in considering the information before them. So I'll move on to part B of the agenda, which is the City of Swan. And in doing so, I'll ask panel members to confirm that they have duly considered all of the documentation contained within part B of the agenda and the related information by raising your hand, please. Thank you. Item 2, disclosures of interest. I don't have any at this stage. And Councillor, was the item we're about to consider considered at a council meeting at all? No. Okay. We are to consider the Form 1 application for 54 Lakes Road, Hazelmere, the proposed warehouse and incidental offices. We have not had a presentation request, but Jared Ross from Taylor Burrell and Brett Shivers from Hesperia are available for questions for the applicant team. I noticed that Councillor Catalano, you have joined the meeting now. Sorry, you were...
yes, sorry, I had problems with my nose. Thank you.
That's okay. Can I also ask if you have duly considered all the information?
I have, yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, panel members, do you have any questions of the applicant team? Dale?
Yeah. Yes,
Mike?
I just had one of the applicants with respect to the parking amount, and just wanted to know whether or not the 169 parking bays were what you really wanted, or whether it was more of a compromise in the context, noting that the policy, the formal policy asked for much more, and you've come down to what's being applied more generally. Because it seemed like a lot in the context of a contemporary warehouse. But
yeah, 169 bays is what we originally proposed, so it is what we are seeking. The tenant that we have occupying the building has a maximum of 130 staff, so we will have a surplus of bays. Generally, these types of developments, we do try to provide a practical surplus for shift changeovers and the like, but realistically, yes, that's what we're seeking.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Catalano?
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions. One was about a map on page 32 of the Transport Impact Assessment. And you've got this map showing this blue line that basically goes right into the residential part of Hazelmere. I wondered if you could explain that, because it wasn't explained in the report.
If you'll give me a moment, I'll need to find the map.
Page 32, Transport Impact Assessment.
Page 160 of the report.
Yeah, I do. She'd like an explanation.
Yes, please. I'd like to know what that map represents in respect of this development, why it's been included, because it wasn't clear to me how that fitted in with your argument in support of this development.
Look, from memory, Councillor Catalano, my understanding from that is that it shows an alternative, a scenario whereby the traffic exiting the site, if it wanted to turn, this is a future option, if it wanted to turn right or to get out of Lakes Road, would have to go through that area. And we don't want that. It's not proposed as part of what we're doing. And there's other discussions in the background around that. To be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure why, and I can see why you would look at that and think, well, that seems a bit odd, but it's certainly not an intent as part of this for any traffic to do that.
Yeah, well, it is actually contrary to the Hazelmere, you know, the HESAP, that it's the whole idea is that traffic is not meant to go, industrial traffic or any kind of you know, traffic from the industrial area, is to impact on the residential area at all.
Yeah, I agree.
So, you know, it's just like, what's it doing there? And what are you trying to achieve by putting that map there? I got the bits about you know, traffic going on to Lloyd Street, but yeah, I'm very confused as to why this is an alternative at all, because it's definitely not something that should be considered.
No, and it's not. It was put in, I believe, as a scenario by the traffic consultants, but that's not maybe to indicate why the preference is for access via Lloyd Street, which seems obvious, but I can't tell you specifically.
Okay. Now I have, yeah, thanks. I've got some other questions, and this is to do with your geotechnical reports. But firstly, the proposal is basically to excavate the site and to remove all the clay. Am I correct? And then fill it with sand? No.
So the site currently is filled with sand, and it's got a limestone constructed hard stand that PTA / the Unvale Alliance are using. So it's a cut to fill balance on the site. So material will be moved from one position to another, but there's no import of fill required on the site, and there's no clay to dig.
So how deep are you going to dig? What about the clay that's down in the south east corner, or that southeast half of the block? What's happening to that clay?
Are you talking about existing clay or clay at depth?
Well, there's a if we go to page 5 of the GALP geotechnical report, there's a map there of and it gives you an indication of the clay. And you know, I sort of read through it, and it appeared to me that this clay was going to be removed. So just wanted you to confirm whether it was or not.
Page 5 of the GALP report?
Yes, please. Yeah, the geotechnical report. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm asking is this site going to be excavated, or are you just putting sand on top of it? What's actually going to happen in terms of the earthworks?
Well, firstly, there's no clay to be removed, so I'm not sure exactly which plan you're referring to, but all of
Okay.
the work has been completed, and it's effectively a cut to fill balance on the site. So we're taking the one end down about 1 metre, and we're taking that material and we're shifting it to the south to fill it up for pretty much a level site.
Okay, so that's good. That's a bit more information. So you're saying that the material, or the whether it's been infilled already or not, but the sand basically at the top west corner is going to be stockpiled on the lower south. It's going from the top to the and you're going to raise. Are you going to raise the southeast corner or the southeast portion of the block? Is that what's going to happen?
Well, the southeast portion is drainage, but in general terms, the top half of the site will have some material removed, so more closer to Lakes Road, and less as you head south, and that material will then be put and used as fill, so that the overall site, which currently slopes about 1 metre and a bit, maybe 1.5 metres, will be level.
Okay.
Level.
All right. Now, I wanted to ask you about whether any exploration or investigations had been done, because now this is about drainage. This is actually a site that's very close to the lakes, and obviously it's catchment for the lake, for the southern Hazelmere Lake or Hazelmere South Lake. So do you know what's going to happen when your development's complete? What's going to happen to the water that currently, subsurface and surface water? How's that going to affect the water levels in the lake?
Well, first of all, in terms of subsoil or the groundwater, the site has a combination of infiltration and storage. So as a rule, we try and match pre-development with post-development, and so there's a reasonable area of infiltration over the site. With regard to surface water, we are given by the city allowable discharges, and those discharges are what we use for the calculation. So what you've got here is hard stand runoff, large roof runoff. Roof runoff tends to be clean. That water doesn't go through a biofiltration process, but the hard stand runoff goes through biofiltration. So it's all which is all part of the drainage management plan. And so, I mean, the total amount of water that falls is the same. It's how it gets to the lake and how quickly it gets to the lake will vary a little bit, mainly through the groundwater. Currently, you've got infiltration. Well, pre the hard stand that's on the site now, you had infiltration going through to the lake. Now you've got storage and infiltration. Discharge conveyance to the lake via the nearby drainage system.
Okay, so how is the stormwater going to get into the lake? Where's that going to? How's that going to happen?
So it basically is discharged out at the southwest corner into the existing drainage, upgraded drainage that was being installed as part of what Main Roads were doing before they left the site. So there's a culvert underneath our road, and it's discharged into there.
Under Vale. Okay, and that drains into the lake, does it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, okay. And so just finally, just getting back to the actual earthworks. So are you saying that the earthworks are not going to change the hydrology of that site at all? And I'm talking about the hydrology of it now, the natural kind of hydrology of it.
The hydrology has changed from its, if you want to call it, greenfield scenario by virtue of the current development that's on there, the hard stand. It's not going to change substantially. The hydrology won't change substantially, but the water quality will improve massively as part of
Okay.
it.
What aspects of it will change? If it's not substantially, what aspects of the hydrology will change?
Well, previously you had a limestone hard stand, which would have had a little bit of infiltration.
Okay.
Compared, and so that existing hard stand is over 95% of the site. We've now got more landscaping, more infiltration as part of this development and compared to what it is at the moment. And we have pretty much all impervious surfaces, whereas the existing is limestone. So small storms, there'd be a little bit of rainfall that would be that would kind of soak into the limestone, whereas now it's going to run off and will need to be compensated before it's discharged.
Okay. All right then. Okay. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions of the presenters on behalf of the applicant? If not, thank you very much. Panel members, do you wish to ask any questions or seek the opinion of the council staff and anything that's been raised?
Just a minor question.
Dale, yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you, presiding members. So just looking at condition 15, relating to the colours, materials and finishes of the development needing to be in accordance with the plans and schedule that forms part of the application. Sometimes during detailed design, minor tweaks are made to these. How does the city propose to handle that? Because this condition is very specific. Do you intend then to deal with any minor changes via a Form 2 or a subsequent approval by the city? Or did you want to add the words unless otherwise approved by the City of Swan to the end of the condition 15?
I can talk to this one. I don't have any, I guess, issues with that being added to the end of the condition. It was just more so to be in accordance with what the design review panel had reviewed as part of their assessment against the State Planning Policy 7.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further? If not, no. Councillor Catalano, you have a question?
Yes, thanks. Who am I talking to? Sorry. Is it Laura?
Yep, and we have Phil Russell as well.
Oh, great. Okay, thanks. So yeah, I wanted to get back to just the impacts of this development on the Hazelmere Lake South. And I guess what I'm sort of asking is that, you know, some sort of reassurance that, you know, not only the, you know, natural hydrology of the site isn't going to be disturbed, so that you know, water will no longer accumulate in the lake. But I'm also wanted to know that you know, the runoff and the stormwater was going to be properly managed going into the lake as well. So, you know, basically, just wanted you to you know, reassure me that that lake is not going to dry up, is effectively, or get denuded, is effectively what I'm asking, whether you've actually looked at that and whether you know if that's the case or not.
I'll take that question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Panelists might know, or councillors might know, but they may not. The traditional drainage arrangements in Hazelmere since time immemorial has been through a collective system whereby the water is discharged into the Hazelmere lakes. That's been in place with an historic system for a very long time. It is also fair to say that that historic system, which was basically just a pipe system, doesn't have at the time in which it was constructed many years ago, doesn't have the sort of water quality treatments that modern drainage infrastructure has. Now, what the proponent has indicated, what Mr. Shivers has explained in some detail, is that the drainage infrastructure on this site in relation to interconnected soak wells leading into a detention basin with a treatment train approach before it's discharged into the piped network in the road system and ultimately out into the Hazelmere Lakes means that they will be treating the stormwater quality on site in accordance with today's modern water quality treatment requirements. So you will have water treated on site adequately, discharged ultimately into the city's drainage network, and then ultimately finding its outflow into the Hazelmere Lakes. Now, one of the key things with the Hazelmere Lakes that's been recognised, and it's the case with all wetlands across metropolitan Perth, is that they are drying up. So obviously, to some extent, you might say that the discharge of appropriately treated stormwater into the lakes is a plus rather than a negative. So it is designed to recharge the lakes with water. I don't know what the ecology values and standards of the Hazelmere Lakes are. I'm led to believe that they're not flash, and that was probably acknowledged in the HESAP, Hazelmere Enterprise Area Structure Plan, and recognised that one of the key development outcomes for the development of Hazelmere was to try and lift the standard of the lakes, inclusive of provision of water and quality treated water. So on the whole, this is a net benefit rather than a net disbenefit.
Okay, and just then that's the stormwater. Okay, that's a good answer to that. But in terms of the actual excavation and earthworks, will it alter the hydrology of water, subsurface water that goes into the lakes, that just naturally goes into the lakes, draining off that clay pan there?
I had a cursory look at the Galt Geotechnical report, Mr. Chairman, and as far as I can see from the extent of cut and fill, it talked about plus or minus half a metre. So generally, they have indicated where groundwater levels is. So as we know, in the modern planning system, you want to have a separation to the highest winter point of the groundwater table of at least 1.5 metres. So it's a standard requirement for all these developments to ensure that they are well above the groundwater table. This is a development that's largely filling as opposed to excavating down. So again, on the basis of the necessary separation distances, it's been designed not to have an adverse intersection with the groundwater table.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that.
Thank you. Any further questions of the council staff? If not, we'll move on to discussion and consideration of the application. In order that the panel can do that, we'll need a mover and seconder for the current recommendation. And do I have a mover? Dale Page, seconder. Mr. Morris. Dale, you wish to speak to the item?
Yes, thank you, presiding member. I'm happy to support the proposal. It's an appropriate use for the site. The city's design review panel support the design, subject to signage being dealt with as a separate DA. And the recommended condition will also ensure achievement of the requirements of restricted use number 15 under the city scheme. I do note the proposal can't achieve the 3 metre wide landscaping strip on Vale Road, but that's largely because of the need for the noise wall. But it appears this landscape is compensated for via a large number of trees and other landscape to be planted in the verge. It's also noted that not all parking required by city policy is being accommodated on site, but the TIA provided with the application gives me some comfort that the amount of parking being provided will meet the needs of the development. And the applicant has clarified that for us earlier. There's also extra hard stand area on site for overall or extra parking for if required. I wouldn't mind seeking to move a very minor amendment relating to condition 15, just to add the words unless otherwise approved by the City of Swan to the end of that condition.
Okay, can we deal with that one as I move the seconder agreement? Does the seconder agree to that? All right.
No.
All right. Thank you, Dale. Mike, would you like to speak to the item as seconder?
Thank you, Presiding Member. My assessment of the information is that there's been a healthy conversation between the applicant and the council staff, and the project looks like it's been well developed as a complying development within the context of the structure plan in the area. So I'm supportive of the application.
Thank you. Other panel members, councillors, any of you wish to speak to the item? Councillor Henderson.
Briefly, thank you, Chairman. The development is a good one. I'm happy that the water management issues in the Hazelmere have been dealt with. More importantly, the traffic issues have been addressed. Main roads have had their input there as well. Certainly, the scenario that was raised by Councillor Catalano could ultimately be an emergency path or whatever. So it is a path. Whether it's going to be ever used or not, hopefully they stay out of the urban areas. But more importantly, I want to see Hazelmere developed to its fullest extent, and I think this is a good application. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Catalano, you wish to speak to the item?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm supporting the application. It's in accordance with the planning framework for the locality. The proposal is for a major warehouse and incidental offices. The size of these warehouses seem to be getting bigger and bigger, in keeping with the trend in Wattle Grove and Hazelmere in those locations. The drainage matters, as everyone's pointed out, have been thoroughly investigated, and it's good to see that the discharge from the site will be an improvement in the current scenario. And traffic impact has been appropriately assessed with access and egress arrangements, and parking has been covered as well. The parking, whilst it seems low, reflects the requirements of these current tenants, and as the responsible authority report states, in future, if there is a change of use and there's more parking required, well, we can see there's a very large hard stand area that could be converted to it, or internal space may be used for that. So with the conditions proposed, I think it'll be a good development and appropriately completed. So in closing, I'll ask the mover, Dale Page, to close debate on the item.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. Just very quickly, I might make some commentary about that minor amendment. I think the way that condition 15 is worded at the minute, strictly speaking, if the tiniest change happens to any of those colours, materials, etc., is to occur through detailed design, it's going to trigger the need for another application. And I just don't think that's reasonable. So with that, the addition of that minor wording, it gives the city the ability to exercise its discretion in dealing with some very minor changes to those colours and materials if they come through at building licence stage. Other than that, nothing further to add, Presiding Member.
Okay, thank you. That being the case, I'll put the item on the agenda to a vote. All those in favour of approval? Against? Councillor Catalano. So it's 4-1. Thank you very much. And that completes part B of the agenda. Thank you, the City of Swan, councillors and staff. We'll move now to part C of the agenda, where we go to an application for the childcare centre, or childcare premises, I should say, on 3rd Avenue, Mandurah. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. See you next time.
See you, councillor. Okay, just waiting for the Mandurah councillors to arrive. Okay, we have the councillors and city staff together. Welcome, Mayor Williams and Councillor Knight.
Great to see you.
Also, Aaron Lucas and Cheryl Old. Thank you very much. Item 1 is a declaration of due consideration. Will panel members please indicate that they have considered, jump the gun there, City of Mandurah.
We're always eager.
Okay, you've duly considered all the items on part C in the agenda and related information. We will raise our hands. You've already done yours. Thank you. Disclosures of interest. None have been received at this point. If anyone wishes to disclose, they can do so now. If not, councillors, was the item considered at a council meeting? If not, thank you. We'll move on to the consideration of the application. And we do have a presenter, Mr. Joe Algeri from Altus Planning, speaking in support of the recommendation. Mr. Algeri, would you like to make your presentation? A copy of which we have had for a while and are familiar with, so speak to the item, please.
Good morning, and thank you, presiding member and panel members. Good morning to City's councillors and staff. As per my written deputation, I'm speaking in support of the recommendation made by the City in the submitted RA. We are pleased to endorse the RA recommendation, as we believe there is merit to the application and that it can and should be conditionally approved. The applicant has provided significant supporting documentation with the application, which we say demonstrates that proposal will not result in any adverse amenity impacts, and that's one of the principal challenges of a childcare facility in a residential location. One of the matters we are pleased has been resolved in the RA and is an appropriate crossover location. We've had numerous discussions with the City in respect to this. From a purely engineering point of view, the City's engineers would have preferred the crossover from 3rd Avenue, the local access road, as opposed to Coolabah, which is a local distributor. With these types of matters, and as is commonplace in planning, there always needs to be a balancing exercise of different considerations. And when we have regard to the City's local planning policy number 3 on residential uses in residential zones, we think that significant weight should be given to considerations such as minimising noise and headlight glare and the like. So from an amenity point of view, we say, as recommended, that the single crossover to Coolabah Avenue is the preferred location as recommended in the report. And we've also got the relevant traffic studies to support this location. Furthermore, access has been situated as far as possible or as practicable from the adjacent roundabout at the intersection, some 28 metres away. And again, we think from both a traffic and an amenity perspective, we've landed on the appropriate location. There's only 2 outstanding matters that I briefly wish to discuss in respect to the conditions. So recommended condition 3, we're certainly not seeking to avoid the requirement for amalgamation, but it would be far more practicable if this could be implemented not at the commencement of the works, but rather prior to the issuance of a building permit. And that way we can get on, or the applicant can get on with some preliminary site works. And then condition 20, the submitted acoustic assessment by Herring Storer has identified the need for 2.2 metre high fencing with the neighbours to the north and the east. There's nothing in that assessment that suggests that colour-bond material is not acceptable or not effective. And in the absence of the planning framework prescribing anything else or some other material, we don't believe the requirement for a masonry wall is necessary. But perhaps in the spirit of compromise here, if condition 20 was to be reworded to say masonry or similar, the applicant can give further thought to some other form of fencing. For example, the heaval type fencing, which is a form of concrete panels, is becoming commonplace in these types of contexts, and it gives some flexibility to something other than colour bond being investigated and implemented. So that's all from me. We respectfully request that you endorse the city's recommendation in the RA. And if you have any questions, both myself and Jaden Pope, who's with me, who is the officer that largely prepared the application in our office, we'd be happy to answer any questions. So thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Algeri. Panel members, any questions of the presenters? From here, councillors? Yeah? No? Thanks, Mr. Algeri. We may have queries later on. Given the presentation, do panel members wish to ask any questions or seek clarification from city officers? Dale, yes.
Yes, thank you, presiding member. Even ahead of Mr. Algeri's commentary about condition 3, I did have a query about that wording of that condition. So it relates to the amalgamation of lots before the commencement of works. And I do understand that that process is already underway, but it's not been concluded. I guess often amalgamation is only required to occur before occupation. Is there a specific reason you want this to be finalised before commencement of works?
Thank you. Through the chair, look, rewording it to being prior to a building permit, the city has no objection to that. But in previous advice we've received over a number of years, we've been sort of advised that you can't hold a building permit up for a planning condition under the planning framework. So that's, I know that the DAP does issue that decisions with that condition from time to time, and other local governments seem to as well. So we'd be happy to accept the condition prior to a building permit, because the intent is that before they engage getting a building permit to build the new structure, so that it doesn't have to cross boundary lines. It's not to require the amalgamation to occur prior to any demolition or site works. So yes, the city's perfectly happy with that condition being amended to that effect. Although I just wanted it noted that we just don't think we're allowed to.
Well, can I just take that a bit further? I'd probably be more comfortable with it prior to occupation. So is the city comfortable with amendment of condition 3 to require amalgamation of the lots prior to occupation of the development?
Well, I think it's the matter of building that our building team are very keen to try and simplify the building process. Perhaps if we amended it to prior to construction, because that
okay, I guess that to me is not really that different to what's already written there. What is the specific concern you have about amalgamation prior? Because it actually takes that out of the building process then, right? So you've got your building process that runs separately. So what would be the concern about only requiring completion of amalgamation before occupation?
Well, because then they'd be building over boundary lines. That would require things like easements to be put in place and things like that. and BA20 forms, and it's just it complicates things where we see that there's a simplification outcome. And if Mr. Algieri's concern was that they couldn't progress with some site works or demolition works, then prior to construction still allows that to occur.
Sorry, I'm just seek clarification. I mean, prior to construction, you'll need a building license. So, and any site works, you'll need a building license. So really, they can't do anything on that site until the site is fully amalgamated. That can take several months. So if they get an approval today and they lodge for forward works such as cut to fill, they'll need a license for that, won't they? Partial building license.
I wouldn't expect that the cut and fill required on this site would require a building permit. They need a demolition license for sure.
Well, that's a separate one, yes.
That wouldn't prevent that happening.
Okay, well, I know on most of the DAPs we deal with for amalgamation, the condition is generally prior to occupation of the premises, whether it be childcare, shopping centres, etc. Most local authorities tend to operate on that, and unless you've got legal advice to the contrary, I think that and you don't seem to object to that, then occupation of the premises is usually the way that we tend to impose. But anyway, we can talk about that during the course of consideration of the item. Thank you very much. Any further questions of council staff? Councillors, you're happy with? Okay.
So, sorry, just one more, presiding
Yes, the
member.
noise wall.
What is the city's response to the request by the applicant to make that minor tweak to condition 20, I think, about including the words or similar after the words masonry fence? What are your thoughts on that?
It's in the interest of, I think adding those words that or similar to the satisfaction of the city, so then we can get a bit of science behind it, because I do know that our health team who evaluated the noise effects had some concerns with the acoustic report not potentially considering things like plant noise, and understanding that vehicle noise is exempt from the requirements, the cumulative effect of some of the noises which would be on site, that Colorbond would not would potentially not meet the requirements, particularly in the absence of an evaluation on any plant noise. So if we could add to the satisfaction of the City of Mandurah, or similar, like the or similar to the masonry, subject to the satisfaction of the City of Mandurah, we can at least evaluate the science behind it and make sure it is going to meet the requirements.
Thank you. Any further questions? Yes. Councillors, no further questions? If not, thank you, presenters and council staff, for answering our queries. In order that we can move into discussion on the item, can I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved Mayor Williams.
Presiding member, before calling for a seconder, I just want to note I'll be moving an amended motion that makes a change to number 3 to include the words.
Sorry, who have we got there?
This is.
Oh, sorry, Mayor Williams. I couldn't quite see your lips moving. Sorry. Okay, good. That's fine. You can do that with the agreement of the seconder if necessary. So do I have a seconder? Councillor Knight, I think I saw your hand up. Thank you. Yes, Mayor Williams, you can move on.
Sure, no worries. So I'm just moving it as the motion as it is, but with an amendment that includes prior to occupancy on number 3 as discussed, and number 20 or similar, inserted the words as requested by the proponent, but with the words to the satisfaction of the City of Mandurah. First of all, thanks to the proponent and also the planning consultant. This is a really good outcome in terms of build form and use on this road. And my understanding from reading the RAR is that there's been compromises on many fronts, and that's what we really like to see. So thank you for that. I appreciate where the proponent is coming from in relation to the looking at alternative materials for the wall. I really strongly encourage the panel to support condition 20 because I think a colour bond fence, you know, with kids booting balls against it, etc., is likely to cause more issues for the residents in the area. And so I think a masonry wall or similar is an appropriate use, but I take the point that there are other products on the market. I would just say that or similar is a relatively subjective term. And so by adding to the satisfaction of the City of Mandurah, it provides an opportunity for an evidence-based kind of process to be applied to that additional material. So I hope the panel would support that. But by and large, I think this is a really good outcome. And from my understanding, all parties have worked really well together, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Second to Councillor Knight.
Thank you. Happy to second the item. I don't think there's anything more I can add to Mayor Williams's comments. Completely in support of the minor amendments.
Okay, thank you. Other panel members wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, presiding member. I'm comfortable with approving the application with the amendments moved by Mayor Williams. So it's a use that can be considered in the residential zone, provided there are no undue amenity impacts. And I'm pretty comfortable that the design and the scale of the proposed facility and the conditions that the city has recommended will ensure there'll be minimal impact on neighbours in the surrounding area. I support the design of the developments. It's a good design. I think it will fit well into and complement its residential context. I know there were some concerns about, by a submitter about the parking proposed, but I note that these do comply with the city's requirements. Also noted with interest the commentary about the city's engineers about access of Coolabah and preference for access of third, but this wouldn't comply with the city's policy. And the fact that the original traffic report and the extra CIDRA modelling was done by the applicant gives me comfort that access of Coolabah is safe and preferable option at this point. And the acoustic report demonstrates to me that noise impacts can be managed subject to adherence to certain conditions. So I'm comfortable this development will provide a service to the community, the residential community that it is in, without unduly impacting residential amenities. So happy to support as recommended with the minor amendments proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moritz.
Yeah, thank you. I remember. Yeah, I think it illustrates a fantastic working through with the officers and the consultants on behalf of the developer. I think, as just mentioned, there's a lot of great outcomes in the context from a community point of view, and I also support the architectural style that's been represented here and all those technical issues, and I fully support the proposed amendments to the conditions.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm supporting the application with the amendments. Its application is consistent with the planning framework. It's a good outcome in terms of the design of the development. It's a good location, and of course the application lends itself to a discretionary approval. Impacts have been considered in relation to traffic access, noise. The acoustic report is supportive. I too support the investigation of alternative materials such as the masonry or similar. Once again, this type of panel, that concrete panel that's being suggested as an alternative is quite common with, particularly with childcare centres, but also in other uses. I've noticed the panel has imposed that condition. These panels can be quite appropriate from a noise as well as aesthetic. There can be motives or reliefs or things embedded into those panels, so it becomes a bit more than just a panel, but a work of art perhaps. Therefore, I'm supportive of it. Thank you. Now, Mayor Williams, would you like to close debate on the item?
really nothing to add except an appreciation for your love of art.
Thank you very much. Call me old fashioned, but I do love art. Okay, I'll put the item to a vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much, councillors on the panel and council staff and the presenters. Moving on to item 4 on the agenda, DAP applications are no further. Item 5, section 31, considerations. We don't have any. Part D under other business, all the appeals to SAT have been listed there. And item 2, I will close the meeting at 10:25 a.m. and wish you all the best. Thank you.